The housing market has shifted. We all know that. Nothing new. In this video, I'm sharing with you a few things that I personally wouldn't do as a buyer in a market like we're in today. And trust me, I had to make this list because I'm hearing people are still doing this, and it's baffling to me. These things were popular a few years ago when there was no other choice. The housing market was on fire, and buyers had no choice but to agree to these terms. We're not back in the pandemic. These were things that buyers were agreeing to back then, but now the market has changed. You don't have to. By the way, my name is Tony, and I help people just like you find homes here in the GTA. So if you're thinking about buying a house, my contact information is below. If you like the content, feel free to hit that subscribe and bell icon to get notified of all the updates happening here in the GTA. Never agree to waive your home inspection. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm telling you, never agree to waive your home inspection. I know I sound like a broken record. But I'm telling you, never agree to waive your home inspection. And I still see it a lot. People are still doing this. They think it's a good idea. It is not. And I don't understand why we're doing this. The market has softened so much that there's plenty of inventory out there, plenty of houses for sale that you don't need to be doing this. People have it in their head that they want to make their offer look firm, look really good to the seller. It's not the case. You don't have to go through these hoops anymore. If you're in a multi-offer situation and you want to make your offer stand out, what you can do is limit the amount of time. Instead of a 5-day clause, do a 3-day clause on inspection. But get the inspection done. Next on the list is agreeing to overpay for a house. It should never be done. There's lots of inventory. There's lots of properties available. You should not overpay for a house. Even though there is some areas in the GTA where there's still a few bidding wars happening, but you don't need to be overbidding. Get a true market evaluation done on the home that you're purchasing and bid according to that. And then if you do overbid, you're worried about the evaluation coming through, bank appraisal doesn't come through at what you purchased it at, then you're in the situation that you have to back out of the deal anyways. Never agree to accept all the problems in a home inspection. Use the home inspection as a tool, as a leverage to get the price down or to get a rebate or a credit on items that it's needed to get done. Don't just say, it's okay, I'll deal with that afterwards. Today's market is completely different. We can ask the seller to remedy certain things. So asking the seller for a credit or concessions or asking them to repair things is a great way of getting a good value for your property. You should never agree to accept the inspection report as is. And a lot of people are still thinking back to the pandemic where this was the acceptable thing to do. In today's market, it's not. The next one is never agree to buy the house with a clear survey, especially if your lawyer and real estate agent is recommending it. If you're thinking about putting up a fence, you're going to need a survey. You don't know who your neighbors are. And having a fence line that's on their side of the property is just asking for problems. So always ask for a survey. Don't necessarily waive that. Another one that people are still doing today, and I don't understand why, is they're skipping the final walkthrough. The final walkthrough gives you the opportunity to ensure that the house is exactly the way it was when you originally put that offer in. So if there's major damage to it, this is your time to speak up before you sign the paperwork that now the house is yours. Because once you do that, the house is yours. So let's say from the last time you saw the house to the closing, there was a flood there. Well, if you didn't see that the flood was there, it's on you. You just bought a house that has flood damage. So you got to do that final walkthrough. You got to walk through the house to make sure that house is still in good condition. It's your last chance to double check the heat, double check the air conditioning, double check the washing machines, double check everything to make sure it's exactly the same way as when you put that offer in. Again, never skip the final walkthrough, and do your final walkthrough as close to the closing date as possible. A couple days, no more than that. And that being said, make sure you get at least 2 walkthroughs. One so you can take measurements of stuff so you can purchase stuff. And the last one is to make sure the house is the way you expect it to be. And the second one, use as the final walkthrough. The other thing I would never do in today's market is putting an offer on a house sight unseen. The last thing you want to do is make an offer on a property based on the pictures, because you don't know when those pictures were taken. They might have been taken last week or last year before a tenant moved in. Who knows when those pictures were taken? You have to physically see the house before you judge the house, before you make that offer. I recently had a client who was interested in buying a house, and they were skeptical about looking at it because they were in Montreal and we're in Toronto. And one of the things I offered to them was, hey, let me go take a look at the house. I'll make a quick video of the house. When I got there, the house looked so much smaller than it did in photos that's the first thing I told my clients. And guess what? The house was too small for my clients. They might have a 4-bedroom, might look great in photographs, but the photographs don't tell the true picture. During the pandemic, this was happening. In today's market, you don't have to be buying a house sight unseen. Homes are staying on the market a lot longer, anywhere between 30 and 60 days. So there's lots of time for you to visit and tour the property and get a good feel of what the house looks like. Never rely on verbal agreements. And what do I mean by this? Say, for example, the seller is agreeing to leave furniture. For whatever reason, they don't want to take it with them, and you guys agree verbally to keep it, and you're counting on that. So for example, let's say they agree to leave the couch, the patio set, few other items in the house that you really want, you are relying on now. Get that in writing. And just make sure it's separate from the home purchase, but get it in writing regardless. You're not including that in the agreement of purchase and sale. You're writing up your own agreement specifically for those items that they want to leave behind. And if it's for free, make sure you stipulate that in the contract. If you are paying for them, make sure that's also included in the paperwork as well. And here's the key. You both are going to sign this. Have your real estate agents facilitate that, but both of you guys are going to agree to the terms, the outlines in this contract for specifically that furniture or whatever item, or whatever the item is. Could be a shed or a gazebo or furniture, like I said, but you're going to specifically agree to it. Never, just don't rely on a verbal. I can't tell you how many times my buyers were disappointed in the seller changing their mind and not leaving something behind. It's disappointing. It's heartbreaking, especially when you're counting on something, especially when you're a first-time home buyer and you don't have extra money for that patio set. It is really discouraging and heartbreaking. So make sure if you're doing any of these side transactions, get it in writing. Here's one that really doesn't happen too often, but it's super important. Never let the seller stay at the property after closing, unless you have a written agreement. Unless you're leasing it back to them for a short period of time, but you want to make sure you have a written agreement. Again, never let the seller stay 1 or 2 days unless there's a written agreement. That being also said, if you're a seller, never let the buyer in the property prior to closing, a couple days earlier before closing, unless there's an agreement. This might have been a little bit more popular during the pandemic when inventory was limited and people were just agreeing to everything. Today, do not agree to this. That's it for this list. Let me know if there's anything you would add to it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll gladly address it in another video. Thanks again. Have a great one.